So hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator, and welcome back to Total Party Skills. Gonna talk a little bit about my experiences playing Starfield over the weekend. Now you can see how many hours I've put into this so far. And right off the bat, the key to making this a role-playing game is to assign yourself your own goals and agendas, and avoid whatever their main storyline is. As soon as I got to New Atlantis and had, dropped the robot off, as soon as there was a dialogue option to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go think about it and I'll be back later, I took off and have not engaged with the main storyline of this game whatsoever in the entire time. Because I had taken the Dream Home perk, I started off with a house on Olympus, but I also was $125,000 in debt to Gal Bank, so I wanted to pay that off because I don't like the idea of having to give them $500 interest every time I want to enter the house. So I spent some time shaking people down on behalf of the bank for some money, and while doing that, I stumbled across the Free Star Rangers, and so I spent a good chunk of time being a space ranger. During that, I discovered the lair of the Mantis and gained the Mantis spacesuit and the starship, which is pretty cool, because when you're flying around in the starship, there's a limited chance every time you encounter spacers or pirates, they will recognize the Mantis and be like, oh shit, we're sorry, and fly off instead of trying to kill you. Earned enough money to pay off the house on Olympus, and then promptly went back to trying to reach the star system of Charybdis, where I'd heard a rumor of a distress signal. However, Charybdis is way the hell out there, and your basic starting ships do not have the range for that, so I had to then earn more money to upgrade the ship so that I can get out to Charybdis. So I took a job with Ryujin Industries, they're a Japanese interstellar megacorp, and up to the point where they wanted to implant experimental technology in my brain, I went along with it, earned enough money to upgrade the ship, and then went on to Charybdis. And much to my surprise, this little tiny thing that was just an activities note as opposed to a, promoted as a mainline mission, the Charybdis mission was amazing. It's the most Star Trek-y thing. It's a planet full of clones, spoilers by the way, of famous people from human history that whoever set it up was trying to hone them to a point where they can then be unleashed on the galaxy and create a new golden age. Except, the people who were running the facility and the robots that were running the whole program were destroyed, and hijinks ensue. Basically, you get to meet Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Genghis Khan, and some Nubian princess. I took the side of Genghis Khan, so I set everyone free. Had to fight some really tanky Cthulhian monsters in the old facility to be able to access the computer to, put admin control in Genghis Khan's hands. Hopefully, down the line, this will lead to some sort of Wrath of Khan pun. But also, the actual reward for this adventure, beyond just the experience of it, isn't a cool new ship or isn't a bunch of, credit coins or anything like that. It's the fact that you get to have a clone of Amelia Earhart join your ship's crew, which also was the very first crew person that I had come across in my travels. And at that point, after rescuing, basically, Amelia Earhart from this clone prison planet, I was going to head back to New Atlantis and finally maybe engage with the Constellation storyline if I can't find something else. Much like Skyrim and Oblivion and Fallout 4, there's quite a few of these games where I prefer to kind of roam off and play as much as I can before engaging with the main storyline. And some of those games, like Fallout 4 and Skyrim in particular, the narrative is such that you feel, if you're trying to role play this, that it's almost like it's a dereliction of duty to not be trying to find your son and or not be trying to stop the dragon apocalypse. And so one thing I like about Starfield is that the quest lines give you break points where they don't flat out say go take a break like they do in Morrowind, but they do give you the option of saying like, yeah, no thanks, I'll think about it and come back to this. So it doesn't feel quite like you're walking away from some horrible imperative, which is good for the role playing if you don't want to just chug along through the main storyline and you want to actually explore the galaxy on your own. Also, as a further note on the whole pronoun controversy. Now, it's not at all like I'm sitting here saying that everyone jumped the gun and is acting like a bunch of hyenas for some sort of illusion of social credit or something. But out of curiosity, since I decided to change my character's hairstyle at one point after she got the job with the Japanese megacorp, I decided to go ahead and just out of curiosity's sake switch it to they them instead of she her. And so far, and the time since then, the only thing that even remotely seems to have acknowledged it was, and it might not even actually have been that, it could have been something else entirely. So it's not even confirmed, but the only thing that it seems to even hint at the they-them identity from any of the stuff going on in-game universe was the captain of a ship I saved from pirates being like, thank you, sir, I mean, ma'am. And so, the one time I've yet encountered anything that acknowledges that if the character who chooses to have the they-them thing basically has the exact same thing happen to them as happened in that famous, it's ma'am incident from GameStop all those years ago. So exactly how this is woke and not maybe actually in itself kind of a subtle joke. Otherwise, also the fact that it doesn't have any fucking influence on things. I think in the same way that you can describe Star Trek as being set in a post-feminist universe where feminism was a thing and it got equality between the genders, and then the ideology went away because it wasn't really needed anymore, and then centuries of later people are kind of almost dumbstruck by the idea that people wouldn't support these things, in the same way that we ourselves right now are a post-slavery society where we look back on the past and we're like, oh, what horrible barbarians were they to do these things. Well, I think Starfield could be described as like a post-diversity future. Since Earth is wiped out and the vast majority of the human population is actually gone because of that, you have to take into consideration the filtering process that would have gone on regarding the human beings that were allowed off Earth to the initial space colonies prior to Earth's destruction. Because all the human beings descended from that original core population will have been people who went through that filtering process. And for science fiction written in the early 21st century, the assumption that filtering process, and so what can be said about the diversity of the color palette of humans encountered in Starfield is probably a result of that sort of filtering process that we would be putting in place ourselves right now when considering the cosmetic makeup of the people that we would send on space missions because we're trying to send a certain message to certain quarters of the world. The imperialism through inclusion. Because we've included you, you are now a part of our empire and you must support it. And Starfield exists in a universe that's after something like that happened. They don't care about diversity, they don't go on about it, there's nothing woke about it, but they are the descendants of a woke civilization, I guess is a way of looking at it. And I guess that might bother some of you, but it's a wonderful game and you're missing out on an awful lot over something pretty stupid. So anyway, until next time, there will be a link in the description box below to a role-playing game that also features a lot of space travel and Amelia Earhart that I happen to have written a couple years ago. So be sure to check that out on DriveThruRPG or Amazon.com. And until next time, stay waspinated.